Well, hello again. This is Bishop Frank Brookhart, and this is the last of our series of explorations into the connection between Lenten themes and sacred art. Today we move actually beyond Lent. We move to a picture of the resurrection. The point of Lent is preparing people to celebrate and reappropriate the meaning and the power of the resurrection. Traditionally, Lent is time of preparation for baptism at the Easter Vigil and renewal of baptism. So today we'll be looking at what, in my very humble estimation, is one of the great portrayals of the resurrection of Jesus our Lord. So let's pull up that picture right now. This is entitled The Resurrection by Piero della Francesca. Piero della Francesca, who died in 1492. He was an Italian, as you can tell by the name. Take a time to look at this picture. Let me tell you a little about Piero and then about the picture per se. Piero was born in Florence in Italy. And in his own lifetime, he was known more as a mathematician than as a painter. Some of his mathematical treatises still exist, and the one we might note especially is a treatise on perspective. He studied art with some of the giants of Florence, Fra Angelico, Brunelleschi, Masaccio, for instance. This painting is from 1467. It was commissioned by the city to be put in the meeting hall in their town, the town of San Sepolcro. San Sepolcro, the sepulchre. It was a town named after the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, and indeed the church there had relics from the Holy Sepulchre. And he painted this in about 1467. It was in the meeting hall of their civic building. It's 7.5 feet by 6.5 feet. It is a fresco, that is, it was painted on wet plaster, and then Piero would quickly make the painting. So it is a large piece and painted in this unique and wonderful style for frescoes. The town fathers, when they would have a meeting, would come in and they would begin the meeting with a prayer in front of this image of the risen Christ. The town of Sepolcro had recently won a victory over the city-state of Florence. So this was about the resurrection of their town, as well as the resurrection of Jesus. So the kind of political and spiritual meld together there. You know, I hope, the story of the resurrection. After his crucifixion, Jesus was buried in a stone tomb. You can visit that. The spot of Jesus' burial is in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. The tomb itself is what do I want to say? It's underground. It's as many ancient sites are. It is debris and the like has accumulated over it. And furthermore, Muslim armies tried to tear it down at one point. But the site of Jesus' tomb is there. And in a recent renovation, they have put little viewing windows so that you can actually see some of the limestone of the tomb. But I want to read Paul's comments on the resurrection. On the third day after his crucifixion, Jesus was raised by the power of God, and continues to be the risen and reigning Lord. All four Gospels have stories of the resurrection. It's a great mystery. There are people who try to explain it, but none of those explanations really do justice to the story or to the rise of the Christian church. And here is Paul, or the writer of Colossians at least, probably Paul, quoting what is likely an early Christian hymn. It's interesting how quickly the church developed hymns and creeds and statements about Jesus. So we have this statement, probably from 60 to 70 AD, and Paul is quoting it. Jesus is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For in him all things in heaven and on earth were created, things visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or power. All things have been created through him and for him. He himself is before all things, and in him all things hold together. He is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, so that he might come to have first place in everything. For in him all the fullness of God was pleased to dwell, and through him God was pleased to reconcile to himself all things, whether on earth or in heaven, by making peace through the blood of his cross. So there, the early church identifies the cross and the resurrection as central to any understanding of Jesus as the risen Lord. Let me be quiet for a minute and for you to digest this wonderful painting, and then we'll talk about some of the elements of it together. Well, it's a stunning painting, isn't it? Let's begin with the figure of Jesus himself. This appears to be Jesus rising from the tomb, the sepulcher, a kind of snapshot image of it happening, 1 foot on the edge of the tomb. He is carrying a flag of victory. Often the risen Christ in art is portrayed as carrying this flag or carrying a cross, an empty cross. You'll see that there are marks in his hands, and the wound in his side there still has a little blood dripping from it. Well, how do you react to this image? You'll notice in the background that we have trees that mark vertical lines, and the edge of the tomb marks a horizontal line, and then the flag is more of the vertical lines. When you put these lines together, they essentially box in Jesus as the center of the painting. I haven't tried to measure it, of course, but it might be something like a perfect square. people have commented on the body of Jesus here. It's probably based on Piero looking at ancient Roman statues. It's very naturalistic. You see folds in Jesus' stomach where he's lifted his leg and it's caused folds in his abdomen. Above his head is a sort of plate-like halo. And what do you think of his face? Well, there's no attempt here to make Jesus handsome, is there? This is just a face of great, what words would you use to describe that face? I would use dignity, a solemnity. Notice how he's looking directly at you and me. In the background again, you'll notice that on the left, the trees are bare, and on the right, they're covered with leaves. There's no foliage on the ground on the left, and on the right, you'll see bushes and the like in the background. What do you make of that? What I make of it is that it's a movement from death to life, represented in the resurrection. That as your eyes move from the left to the right and pass through Jesus, you're moving from death to life. When we look at a page, at least, we have a tendency to start at the top right and move across the page in an almost diagonal manner. I know that from high school journalism classes. That's part of the reason that newspaper front pages are arranged the way they are. And as your eye makes that natural movement, you move from death to life. Below are sleeping soldiers. In Matthew's account of the resurrection, the body of Jesus is buried, and at the request of the authorities, Pontius Pilate posts guards on Jesus' tomb so as to prevent the body from being stolen. And then rumors started about Jesus being raised. So this painting is based to some degree on Matthew's account. Well, in the story, the soldiers go to sleep, as you might guess. What do you do in the middle of the night in the cemetery except sleep, I guess? The tomb itself, of course, is an Italian-style tomb. If you go to Italy, you'll see these all over the place. The tomb of Jesus, it was actually a cave cut into the side of a limestone hill with niches and benches where you would lay the body. But Piero has depicted it in Italian terms, and there they are asleep. You see the soldier there in the brown armor in the front, second from the left. The tradition is that is a self-portrait of Piero. Not sure of that, but that's the tradition. The part of the wonder of this painting is that it has two sort of central parts to it. And the line, that horizontal line at the edge of the tomb, marks the two parts of the painting. Only a skillful painter could make that work. One point of focus is the face of Jesus, and the other is the center part of that group of sleeping soldiers. So not only is our eye drawn from the top left through Jesus to the right, but it also moves up and down between these two focal points in the picture. Sleeping humans and the risen Lord Jesus. Some people suggest that's to symbolize the movement from humanity to divinity. In my opinion, it's probably pressing that a little too hard, but that might be, of course. What do you think? Part of what makes this so interesting is the overall impression that the painting makes. As you step back, so to speak, from the details, what would you say about it? What kind of feeling does it give you? For me, it's a painting of great calm, great peace. And that may be because it's so mathematical. The body of Jesus particularly, as I've suggested, seems like something from an ancient Roman or Greek statue. So there is a kind of monumental quality to it. The whole painting has this, to me at least, this feeling of this is a grand, monumental, extremely important thing that's going on here, despite the soldiers being asleep. The painting invites me to meditate. Does it have that effect on you? It sort of pulls me in, particularly the eyes and the face of Jesus. That solemn, dignified majesty. This is a long way from the smiling Jesus as my best buddy picture that we get sometimes. The quality of the light, too, is another thing that Piero is famous for, and it comes through in this painting. Notice the color of the light in the painting. It looks to me like a spring morning, maybe where there's been a rain the previous day to clear everything out, and now a spring morning with this sort of wonderful lucidity, wonderful color to it. Well, I hope as you meditate on the resurrection in this special and holy time of year, that you'll come back to this painting and let you pull it in. That reading from Colossians, it seems to me, that talks about the fullness of Christ, seems to me to state what this picture, what this painting tries to portray to us. So there we have it. Piero della Francesca's The Resurrection. Today it's in the Civic Museum at San Sepolcro in Tuscany in Italy, not far from Florence. So peace and blessings to you, and may you live more and more into the new creation that Jesus brought us in his resurrection.